In the last 22 seasons, Coach DeMarco has won more games as a Geneva head coach than any other human in the 120 years since football began on College Hill in 1890 with the famous denominational war in which Reformed Presbyterians dressed up like Harmonites and dumped all the Baptist Kool-Aid into the Beaver River, which caused the Harmonites and Baptists characteristically illogically to blame and hunt down the Latter-day Saints, the Episcopalians, the Pentecostals, Lutherans, Methodists, and the difficult-to-define other, and chase them into Ohio. During DeMarco's tenure, Geneva has 4 times qualified for the NAIA National Tournament, including the 2005 season, and 6 times DeMarco has led the Tornadoes to the NCCAA Victory Bowl, which Geneva has won 5 times. Geneva has been invited to the postseason 14 times in the last 20 years. This long-term success at one institution has translated into DeMarco being one of the winningest coaches in the tri-state area of Ohio, West Virginia, Pennsylvania. DeMarco has been a part of Geneva football since he joined the Golden Tornadoes as a player in the 1980s. I was born in 1981. Do the math. Any way you look at it, I missed Star Wars: A New Hope by 4 years. Thanks a lot, Mom and Dad. What were you doing? Obviously ignoring your biblical mandate. Dear Mom and Dad, I didn't ask to be born, and I definitely didn't ask to be born 4 years late. In the 80s, Geno DeMarco was a standout linebacker for head coach Gene Sullivan and became the school's first NAIA Academic All-American, and was recently named as one of Geneva's top 100 players from 1776 to 2000. All this to say, there are people on campus who intimidate and scare me and you to death. To help me fight against this fear, I have attempted to capture their power in a form that allows me to see said power all at once, so I can face it head on, instead of piecemeal, the kind of meal that fear dishes out like well-spaced and placed tremors in the foundation stones of my well-being. So what I do is I make a Pokemon card. I've got one for every intimidating person on campus. By keeping the cards in my pockets at all times, I feel stronger. If someone was to shoot a bullet at that particular pocket, it would hurt so much, but probably wouldn't kill me because my heart is not in my hip. Though if you could see me dance, you might think it is. Card 1. Dr. Frederick, or J if you dare, Nykirk. Type, shadow and flame. Series, first generation. Name, Slayer J, Knight Dragothkirk. Hit points, 200. Evolutionary stage, 5. Attack, hyper voice, and dragon walk. Damage, 200. Attack 2, thunder shock, boom burst, and unavoidable poli-sci requirements. Damage, 352. Weakness, none. Resistance, tons. Retreat cost, 0. He does not retreat. I've also made up cards for Doctors Melinda Stevens, she's Malingatros, and Bill Edgar, he's Rhino Bill Beast Ed Gaga. And I'm working on one for Dr. Calvin Trout, though to get to Dr. Trout, I first have to make a card of Dr. Ward, whose chief attack move is making me feel like an idiot. My self-esteem is far too delicate at the present moment even to draw his picture. Coach DeMarco. Type, fighting, lightning, gridiron, ungrippable baldness. Series, third generation. Hat, black beret. Knitted by the fates from the tears of green berets. Coat, leather jacket, made from the hide of Joe Namath's favorite dog. DeMarco's name, War-crazed Geno DeMarco Voltosaur. Hit points, 120 yards times 53.33 yards equals you're dead. Evolutionary stage. Evolution is for weaklings, like finches and mountains. DeMarco does not change. Beak shape and wingspan and magma and shifting continental plates over a long, long period of time could not change him. If DeMarco was a finch, he would be a mountain finch with magma blood. And he would not change a finch inch. Attack 1. X scissor hook and ladder lava plume of liberty play. Damage 24/7, 365. Attack number 2. The up the middle off tackle toss sweep trap and counter draw the bootleg quarterback sneak end around reverse option dance of death from the double-edged playbook of power, the Necronama Conqueror. Damage infinity. Weakness for breakfast. Resistance is futile. Retreat cost? DeMarco Sparkle Voltosaur only retreats so that he can spin the world backwards in time and beat up your grandfather in your grandfather's prime. The moon is the black eye Coach gave the sun. DeMarco rubs 2 pieces of fire together to make wood. Ladies and gentlemen, put your boneless flipper mitts together for Coach DeMarco.
I am not thanking you for coming. Not just yet. See, the real reason I am here is purely selfish. I am here on a recruiting mission to find new members for the football team, really, and to add student assistants to the coaching staff. I will do this in the most unorthodox style your brilliant mind could ever fathom. Why? Well, because I've heard all the comments. I've heard from others who have heard the comments. These comments have started here on the higher end of campus and rolled down the hill to the part of Geneva's geography that lay 8.5 football fields south. It has been for years, this part of campus, let's just say, looks down at the bottom half of campus. You up here in your lofty buildings of stone, and painted wood, and stained glass, and blue, disgusting carpet that resembles our arch rival Westminster. Gaze down at us, the not so dignified, they speak in fragmented sentences, part of campus, athletics, and specifically football. Over the years, because of this, I have purposely allowed my immune system to trigger such a traumatic response that every hair follicle in my body has alerted itself to shut down any production so that I can personally deflect any attention to the large, loud, self-absorbed heathen called football player. So what this bald man, completely void of an intellectual beard, eyebrows, and eyelashes will do tonight, well, once again, at this moment, is to show that all of you from the Northern Kingdom, that we from the land of brawn, bulk, and bicep can ascend to the heights of what we will coin tonight as high-level humor. Humor that only reaches the gamma-aminobutyric acid neurotransmitters of the brain receptors via dendrites to the neurons of highly developed cerebellums of you, the hyper-intelligent. Having a degree in psychology and having studied brain chemistry for 7 years in pharmaceutical industry, I'm well qualified to use this recruiting method. And oh, by the way, psychology is one of only my 4 degrees. And no, physical education or sports management is not one of the other 3. Although, for those who are offended, envy is a terrible thing. I'm sorry. If I was sorry. Edit that. Now, if I was blessed with the ability to sit for long periods of time, I would flaunt my terminal degree in front of all of you, but that is for another day or perhaps another lifetime. Here's a method of my madness. I am really not mad, just passionate, but this is how we're going to do it. Those of you who laugh at this high-level humor, you're out, you're done. We don't want you in a football uniform. We may need you later as a student assistant, but that comes at another time when we interview for high-tech people. Those of you who laugh only because your neighbor, the person sitting next to you, who is my neighbor, Lord, is laughing, well, we'll have you complete a questionnaire and we'll get back to you. But those of you who do not laugh, but remain in a catatonic state, void of any neurological response, we want you. We want you very much. We want you very badly. You may be starting on the football field this fall because you fit the mold of those who don't get it. At this moment, I'm reading your large gray matter because that's what we do in marketing, mind control. And I've heard those comments as well. And you're asking if this will be funny. What do you think? I am uneducated? Let me boast. I got C's and D's in a class called conduct in elementary school. Had a string of them. I mean, I had a dynasty going in the late 60s. Year after year, I was awarded this grade in conduct. Complete domination. Like Fred Smith at Wendy's, winning the Employee of the Month 4 times. I saw the small plaque right on the window, but that's not important right now. I got C's and D's in conduct. I had no idea what conduct was. Couldn't even remember taking the subject. I had to ask my dad. He reminded me every report card period what it meant. I was a real jughead, a goofball, laughing in class and being disruptive, bored, of course. Nonetheless, you who criticize, I'm very well experienced in this field of study, so let's, as they say, commence to proceed. If at any point I say laugh, then all of you should feel stupid, real stupid. But remember, there is a Jeremiah 29:11 for all of you awaiting in the southern kingdom. And I am using the terms northern and southern kingdom to define the parts of campus so that Byron Curtis can do an eschatological expose of football and his ancient Jewish culture for this new course in Kings, Chronicles, and Pigskin. You can sign up for that class online as soon as possible. Let's begin the exercise. And by the way, that annoys me. This is not exercise. Deadlifting, squatting, hand clinging, lifting weights is exercise. That's real exercise pain, but let's begin. This is taken from my, thank you. This is taken from my upcoming book, The Incoherent Ramblings of a Bald Man and His Red Head. I wrote it while I was in the sun. Copies will be in the bookstore tomorrow in the humanities section. This is from chapter 6, Ramblings about the Coaching Profession. The correct use of English and a psychological inventory to determine high-level brain activity. Vocational calling. I was born in a maternity ward because there was no room for me at the Holiday Inn. The hospital had a sign, no children allowed. I'll say that again, someone was coughing. The hospital had a sign, no children allowed. In the maternity ward, we got a couple of recruits right now. I need you. We need you very badly. Once I arrived, I was glad that my parents could not read English. Parentheses. This is not entirely true. It is simply a narrative device to enhance my story and to Those of you who believe I or members of my family just stepped off the boat that originated from Sicily. Semicolon. And for the record, I nor any member of my family has or ever been part of the Corleone, Soprano, or Pizza Joe's family, end parentheses. Immediately, it was an awkward time in my new life, all of 6 hours teaching my parents English. Only God knew that 23 years later, I would be butchering the English language and coaching football by communicating with grunts, sighs, and this sound. Duh! Yeah! Which led to this, the impartation of knowledge to those who are the neophytes of the sport of football. When describing one of our linebackers, a reporter once asked me if the player knew the meaning of the word fear. I do believe it was a print reporter. That's newspaper. Those are things that you wind a garbage can with, or things that you have your dog read, or do other things on. We'll get into that later. He asked me if this linebacker knew the meaning of the word fear. I said, well, by the looks of his English 101 grade, he doesn't know the meaning of a lot of words. That English thing. Shakespeare, the first man in Under Armour tights. Oh, you've never seen that? You've never looked? Look closely. He is supported by Under Armour. He's not a fan of football, but it's the flute is to Ron Burgundy, Beowulf is to the men of the gridiron. We need more Beowulf. Beowulf. They still read Beowulf? No. You ripped it out?
Ish.
Ish. Okay, got it. I'll tell you the story later. Everybody dies. It's great. Kind of like It's a Beautiful Life. Sorry. He won an Academy Award. He was from the Corleone family. 3, we have strong expectations for the football program. This is best described in our commitment to those outside the program. Students who consider our players jerks ought to see the coach. Yeah, the peanut doesn't fall too far from the tree. Learned that in Georgia at Tech. That's where they make peanuts. Georgia, not Tech. Yeah, got a few more recruits here. Recruiting away from home is tough. At the airport the other day, I was told by Southwest it was time to get on the plane. I didn't want to do that without my parachute, and the daredevil in me has been long gone. So I tried by train and bus, but the same requirement was given. Get on the bus. Get on the train. Poor use of the English word on. I usually get in my car and drive. Got on my car once without a helmet. Yeah, concussions are tough. It's restricted to unauthorized personnel. Too bad for me now. I did it one time, unrestricted on the field, kind of like a sanctuary. Speaking of sanctuary, you can't really tackle anybody in church. Yeah, I haven't seen that happen yet. It will probably happen though one day, probably one of those churches with drums or a marching band. We have a great team doctor, six. We have a great team doctor. His office is in the Mental Health Prevention Center. He's pretty good on preventing that mental health thing. Really haven't seen it on an injury report all year, so happy about that. Number 7, playing on the road is tough. Well, we did not actually play on Route 18. We have practiced a few times on it. I mean, like traveling away, which is redundant. I'm sorry. to colleges up north. I saw a sign in the visitors referee locker room that said, quote unquote, "Why go anywhere else and be cheated when you can come here?" Well, at least they are truthful at Grove City. I guess to some degree. And finally, the competition for students is fierce in recruiting. Saw this in an advertisement for one of our competitors on Campus Student Life. Good, clean dancing at the frats every night but Sunday. Yeah, good to know that those in Bethany, West Virginia are Sabbatarians. We will now move into the speed round of incoherent ramblings that are irrelevant to anything of academic nutritional value. For those of you who belong to the Society of Dark Sarcasm in the classroom, teachers, please leave those students alone. I give you celery. Cool fire. Specifically, I am a generalist. I just remembered I have amnesia. Honestly, I'm a liar. Seriously, I'm joking. Shut up and let's talk. I'm sick of eating healthy. Stupid doctor. Open 7 days all year. Little giants living in a small mansion. We may have to take a bus down because all of you may be playing on the football team next year. I just remembered I have amnesia. It was the lightning round, I told you. Specifically, I'm a generalist. Cool fire. The part of the following reading is brought to you by our national sponsor. Ba, 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 ba. I am loving it. Before I get into my reading for tonight, I want to tell you this disclaimer. I just looked at directions on how to read. I just looked. Dyslexia affects 10 out of 6 men in America. And half of all men under 5'6" are vertically challenged. To complicate this matter, 70% of these men have problems with math, while the other 40% do not. These 3 scientific facts prove that if you can't read or cannot do math, a man will never reach the heights of those around him. Geneva College football, a generation of more than conquerors. The existence of football Geneva is not solely to win championships. The scope of its mission statement far exceeds the results on the scoreboard. The last 40 years has been the most successful according to the standards of American culture in the 124-year period that the game has been played. I played for legendary coach Gene Sullivan, who in 1975 transformed the Geneva football program from obscurity into national recognition. More importantly, as the college moved more to becoming a Christian institution of higher learning, so did the approach to football. He and his brother, Don Sullivan, looked at their calling to Geneva as a ministry to young men. Personally, 23 years ago, because of their influence, I left a successful business career to continue what they had started. For 40 years, a generation of football players have heard from their head coaches the message of Jesus Christ, the impact the Lord has had on the lives of many. Because Geneva is a Christian school that does not require a statement of faith, the greatest mission field as a player here was our own locker room. As a player, there were those of us who knew Christ. There were those who knew of him, and there were those who had never heard of him. Many of my teammates either committed their life to Jesus or strengthened their Christian faith under Coach Sullivan. I'm not going to give examples, they're too numerous to mention. In 1993, I took over for Coach Gene, and having been a volunteer here for 4 years and working for him, he was now part of my staff. This could only happen at Geneva because the mission and the goal of the program remained unchanged. Using the more than conquerors approach from Romans 8, we were looking at to develop leaders, and a manual that was put together on an annual basis for our players. And it's more than just a playbook. In fact, there's not one play in it. It is a central focus of the purpose of why we coach. And growing up in a house of ministers, there are days that we compare notes and we do similar things. The only difference is that this ministry is geared to young men, ages 18 to 23. Coaching at 2 Division I level programs, the difference is like night and day. In '93, we talked to our players about the meaning of purpose. Used the example of Nehemiah as a theme for the year. Most of the discussions that take place in our team meetings are geared toward the issues that confront men. But because these are biblically based principles, the application could include everyone. Purpose to our guys in '93 centered around a life in Christ. It was simplistic and powerful and remains the same today. For you listening today, I had once read that the greatest tragedy in life is not dying, it's living every day without purpose. Been there, done that. Students, if I could encourage you in one thing, pursue something that will allow you the joy to wake up every morning and do what you love. We call it here your vocational calling, which is worship of God through his cultural mandate given in the book of Genesis. Coaching football without the purpose of Jesus Christ in our life is a career, not a ministry. To build a program based on Romans 8 is a ministry. And the members of this church are very different. They come from all backgrounds, spiritually, socially, economically, academically. Every year we have a biblical theme that is woven into the world of football, and we keep this in front of our players year long. My favorite story of this is from 2009 when we used the theme Adapt and Overcome, taken from the biblical account in 1 Samuel 30 of David, the soon-to-be king, and his battle with the Amalekites at Ziklag. A powerful message to that team that reached into their hearts so much that on the 2009 NCCAA National Championship ring, the players had the words Adapt and Overcome engraved on the side. Although right in the heart of football, which is crazy here in Western Pennsylvania, sometimes on a Christian campus in this part of the country, it has its difficulties. Unlike Christian schools located in the South that have football, Christian schools here in our area in the region, in the North, do not. And sometimes students here who have attended these high schools have really never interacted with a football player. In some Christian circles, the sport is viewed as brutal, barbaric, and even unchristian. Another factor is the amount of football players in the student body who have been part of or are currently part of the team. The squad size is the largest in the 124 history of the program, and 1 out of every 4 males on this campus has worn the GT helmet at one time. Because of the number, football is mentioned more than other groups concerning various issues on campus. We, as coaches, use these situations as opportunities to teach and to discipline these young boys and to try to make them into men. Despite these difficulties, I'm thankful for the student involvement that has placed Geneva in the top 10 nationally in attendance among Division III schools. Saturday night football here, it's an event. Coach Kephart and his marching band is simply wonderful, marvelous. The super fans, cheerleaders, and the student body give us best home field advantage in small college football. If you look in the news today, football is under attack in our country by a not-so-new opponent, the government, and its influence on the liberal media that is portraying the sport much like the days when in 1905 Teddy Roosevelt tried to abolish or save college football, depending on which revision of history you read. Ironically, once the NCAA was formed, at that time, the death toll increased from 6 to 33. Once modification of the rules took place, elimination of the flying wedge, the game became much safer. Today, the concussion issue is being used by many who fail to inform you that women's ice hockey, men's ice hockey, and women's lacrosse all have higher percentages of concussions per participant. Because the new generation of NFL football players have abandoned the group of players who made the game great for them, the concussion lawsuit has become a big political issue. Talking with one of our former players whose sister actually did the research for the NFL, it is found that the new protocol for concussion treatment is actually working and protecting players. In spite of all these concerns, why does football continue to grow, especially on the college level, where new programs are being started monthly? Why are conference opponents growing their programs in record numbers? The answer is fairly simple. Young men tend to be more aggressive, and football allows an avenue to dissipate this behavior in a controlled environment. Being able to manage the emotion is a necessity for a team that wants to win with a disciplined approach. Recent outbursts in professional football have disrespected the game. The best example of controlled aggression where the opponent is respected is a story told to me by a 4-time Super Bowl champion who vacationed with the guy from another team who he had to block during that season. The reason both were able to do this was their strong commitment to the Christian faith. The reason this story is so meaningful to me is that while playing here, Coach Sullivan, members of the Pittsburgh Steelers, through the Christian Outreach Athletes in Action, would hold an annual football camp here for high school players. During those weeks, we were here at Geneva, got to be with players who are now in the NFL Hall of Fame. The Steelers at that time were the greatest team the NFL had seen, and as a young 19-year-old, I was completely blown away by the humility of these men who loved Jesus more than they loved football. Coach Gene had a number of us who were team leaders interact with not only dozens of the Steelers who attended the camp annually, but the emerging stars of the NFL who were at big-time programs. To this day, the bonds that were established on that field during those camps are still strong almost 35 years later. Why? Because Jesus Christ was the center of it all, and football was the way we got there. I can honestly say that during those days at the AIA camps that God impressed on me to become a football coach. And following the example of these men, who some were the strongest in football. In fact, one was the strongest in the world, 700-pound full squats, 500-pound bench presses, guys who gave everything on the field and then were just as passionate about their Christian faith when they were off the field. Football guys tend to stick together because team is vital to the success in every part of this game. Being in the same huddle with teammates who had to endure physical pain, confronting the ever-present threat of injury, possessing the mental toughness to concentrate on a specific assignment. All of these factors, plus perhaps the biggest, the opponent. These are all components that stir the heart of a warrior. Football is not war, not even close. For those coaches who use such hyperbole, they do a great disservice to the men and women who protect our nation. Football is a game that, placed in its proper priority, can benefit many of its participants. Planning for the game involves more than 11 positions in a given time, because about 80 plays occur on offense and defense and another 30 in special teams. It is not uncommon to have 60 different players be on the field at one time or during one game. Each of these 60 players have different responsibilities, and here is where the unseen part of football is executed, the cerebral component, the strategy of the game. Decisions are based on computer analysis of game video of the opponent from the prior weeks. Statistical tendencies are given on every known situation, formation, field position, and time of game. Today, there is a more high-level approach occurring in football than ever before. Coaching staff employs people who will never coach a practice but are used in processing of information. Those who are experienced in computer science, logistics, nutrition, sports psychology, multimedia communication, exercise, physiology, and the list goes on. All of this information technology, preparation, strategy, training, and analyzing must be used in a play that averages 5.5 seconds. Decisions must be made within 15 seconds that could determine the outcome of the play, and players' decision in a split second could change the outcome of the game. 3 years ago, 6 plays out of 1,800 snaps kept our team from postseason play. That's 1/10 of 1% of all the plays that season. The fine line between winning and losing. In closing, here's an example of one play from that season. It's 4th down and goal from the 2-yard line in the 4th overtime in front of 6,000 people on a homecoming Saturday. Kephart and the band is playing so loud I cannot hear the 3 coaches on the headset. They're watching the game from the press box, screaming about the defense that Thomas Moore is playing. The referee comes over and says, "This is the last play, coach." I give him a thanks, Mr. Obvious look, and the trainer wants to see if our left guard's finger is okay. What? It's probably a fingernail. He's fine. There are 100 players pushing me. We got 15 seconds left on the clock, and I'm pleading with our get-back coach to get these idiots away from me. The call is signaled in. Black left, wide right, BW switch, 90 naked after 13 fake to B. W flat, Z post, corner Y stay. If man check, white 23. If too high, take the cheese and run on 1. 13, 12, 11, 10, 9, 8. Quarterback takes snap, fakes left, avoids rusher, heads to edge on right, dives in the air, getting hit by a blitzing linebacker, and the ball breaks the plane of the goal line. Geneva wins in the longest game in the history of GT football. High-level brain activity has entered the Southern Kingdom. Thank you.